From the Delta Sky Club
Welcome back, Miss Klein.
to the Jet Bridge, Delta Airlines relies on 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to power operations and serve customers faster. Together, we're putting 5G into the hands of ground staff so they can better assist on-the-go travelers with real-time information throughout the airport. This is elevating customer experience. This is Delta Airlines with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
It's time to get inside the Giants Huddle.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
On Giants.com.
I like it, I like it.
And the Giants mobile app.
Boom, give me some juice.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's roll.
Welcome to another edition of the Giants Huddle Podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Football Giants. Big show coming for you today. We're going to hear from the head coach of the Giants, Brian Daboll. He'll talk with Bob Papa. Ryan Fowler, who does a great job covering the Commanders, will help preview the game. And I will talk to a special guest at the end of the program from one of our sponsors. But we're going to lead off with one of our players, Giants safety Jason Pinnock. And now we're joined by Giants safety Jason Pinnock. Jason, what's going on, man?
Oh, not much, man. Not much.
Good. All right. How has this team kind of bounced back in practice this week after what I'm sure was a very disappointing and frustrating loss against Pittsburgh on Monday night?
Yeah, man. Just we positive, man. The guys, they unbreakable, unbendable, and that's one thing like I can say wholeheartedly and like I love about this team and these guys, the coaches, the building alone, the camaraderie. It doesn't stop.
How much of that starts with Brian Daboll, the head coach, and how he talks to you guys? You know, I walk by your guys' team meetings on Wednesday and Thursday. You guys having fun in there?
Yep.
Obviously, you're getting your business done too,
Of course.
right? But how much is it the way he sets a tone from the top down, and how much is it your captains and the veteran group also setting a tone in the locker room?
Very player-led. You know what I'm saying? You kind of hit it for me right there. And it's he's always emphasizing us. And it's us. It's within here. Because, you know, a lot of – I mean, I'm not going to speak for the other 31, but, you know, it's a profession where people could become arrogant or start to point fingers when things ain't going their way, you know. And like I said with the previous question, I mean, bro, we don't do that here. And I love that. You know, I've been other places, and it's not always like that, man. So I love the guys. Dave does a good job emphasizing that part and just staying within the building.
Now, I'm sure, though, it wasn't a fun film session on Tuesday morning, especially when you looked at the run defense.
Right.
So why don't we start there?
Yeah.
When you looked at that run defense, is this something systemic that needs to get better? Is it just a couple mistakes on individual plays? You know, because those first three drives, they had like 3 or 4 chunk runs on those drives.
And it's the second part, which you said. It's nothing like within the system or the scheme. It's the fundamentals. It's tackling in space, myself included. It's getting off blocks. It's using your hands. It's vertical rush through the line. You know what I'm saying, to cut off edges. And you know, it's small things that are so major in professional sports.
And I guess that's why, at least I can only imagine for you guys, for me watching it, this season's been frustrating, right? Because it seems like small mistakes in every individual game. It always seems to be in a different area, right?
Yeah. Yep.
The impact of those small mistakes on the big picture in these games seems to be huge. So as a player, how do you kind of bring that all together and just try to get some of those small mistakes, even though they're different every week, out of it so the results end up being better at the end of some of these games?
Yeah, man, and that's the biggest thing, bro. And it's if for the younger guys coming out, I have a really young group right now.
The whole team's young, man. You guys have the youngest team in the league on a per snap basis in the league.
Wow, okay. I did not know that.
Yep.
Wow. But, yeah, so with my guys specifically is I always put it in perspective of our 22 season. It was like 5-6 wins within there where it was the same way. We just were on the good part of it. It was just the good guys, you know, and that's this league. It's that one play, it's 2 plays, and you kind of touched on it too again, is that
you either make the big play or you make the big mistake. And that's the difference, right?
And if you lose, those are always the big mistakes. If you win, the mistakes are minor, and people don't look into them. That's the world we're in, and that's what you got to live with. And to touch on exactly what you said, because that's what it is. It's the league is, man, though you fix the minor thing from the past week that hurt you, and something else minor comes up. You know, because the emphasis is there, and it's like it's just all trying to tie it to one. And that's when you play a complementary game, that's what happens.
So when you have a young group like you have then, is it just a matter of making sure they understand that there has to be a complete focus on every single play, because one small mistake on one play can have untold consequences?
Yes, and we do that even within our day. So our day, we have a lot of early meetings just because the group is so young. We're 7 a.m. 3 times a week. So it's like we emphasize even within that. Like, we don't care that you just cracked your eyes open at 6:30 and, 6:20 and rolled out of bed to come here and do this walkthrough. It's you got to take this rep serious, this rep, and then once you need to lead it into the meetings and then lead it into practice and make it all in one. And then that's how, like, it's like playing a complete game, being able to lock in that long, that mental durability. So,
nah, for sure. We've had run defense issues throughout the year, but one thing I think you guys have been pretty consistently really good at this year has been not allowing the big play over the top in passing game, right? Mm-hmm. Now, they got a couple last week against Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. They got you in some one-on-ones without two safeties deep. You were in single high in a couple of those, whatever. Mm-hmm. So is that just them getting the right plays in the right spots, or is that some other type of stuff with maybe some of the young guys you need to talk to about certain things on those plays to stay locked in?
Nah, and it's again, nothing scheme, nothing really personnel. It's sometimes good players get paid too. That's what we like to say.
Yeah,
if you look
nice
at
throws on those plays.
Exactly. If you look at both of them, it was one high. It was just man-to-man, so there's no bust or no miscommunication or nothing in that sense. No bad leverage, no bad technique, just kind of good ball, good catch. And yeah, that's really it. So it's no, like, our faith is strong, within the system and within the guys.
So within your group, those are the guys you deal with.
Yep.
Tyler is really young. Drew's really young, both rookies. How have both guys dealt with, and Tyler was in school for a while, and for everyone I talked to in Minnesota said he acted like a pro when he was in college.
He got an old soul.
Right, correct. So how have these guys kind of caught on to what you guys are preaching with the details early for meetings and kind of doing all that stuff?
Very good, man, very good. And as you probably heard a lot about Newbin, like he has a lot of respect, from wherever he's been and wherever he's walked within the game of football. He respects the game, his preparation. He got an old soul, man. So, Drew, in his own different way, but he respects the game, and he's the one that's really turning the page as far as preparation, learning how to watch film, knowing what to look for, studying with a purpose,
How much easier is it to play these rookies and have confidence in them when both of them are willing to be physical the way they are as defensive backs?
And I think that's the biggest thing for, within players, DC, everybody to accept rookies playing within their system is the uncoachable stuff, the effort, saying, the physicality, the willingness to tackle, those things, the communication, and that confidence and communication comes within the preparation, so, and that's something both of them do.
Now, Deonte Banks has had a couple of rough weeks in terms of controversy. He got pulled out of the game in the second half last week. He's a young guy, too. He's never been one to lack from confidence when I've talked to him. So how has he handled all of this?
In a humble way. It's no animosity towards people that come up and got something to, help them out with, whether it's a coverage-based thing or some type of just help within, understanding the front on this play. So, you got to play a little bit deeper or a little bit softer, little things. I think he's becoming a sponge, absorbing a lot of information now, being able to slow down and, because those number one corners, they got that, that persona to him, that swag to him, you know what I'm saying? So, but in a sense of when it comes to learning time, very humble.
So he's not one of these guys where it's like, I don't need your opinion on how to do this, I'm good.
Far from.
That's good, because a lot of times these guys, they come in because you need to have confidence at the position, right? If you don't have confidence at corner, you're cooked.
You cooked, I'm telling you. And that's why I came into this league as. So trust me, I know.
All right, well, that's good to know. You said you're seeing him grow in terms of absorbing. Are you also seeing him grow in terms of being a pro and understanding the preparation part of it too?
And taking care of his body, the smaller things, and being here since he's gotten here, his first rookie camp to now, you know what I'm saying? Just the preparation, the difference in attention to detail, even within meeting rooms, anything, small things.
That's great. All right, let's talk about the opponent. You had a nice little game in the last time you played the Commanders. 2 sacks in that game. Take us back. Why were you able to have the success you guys did? And frankly, I know at the time it seemed like Daniels had a really good game.
Yeah.
You look back now, that was one of his quieter games of the year based on what he did elsewhere. So how are you guys able to kind of have success against that offense the way you did, and Daniel specifically?
Just the communication and the preparation that week, which was very similar to this week. We were very confident within that. For me personally, just was that week, wanted to really use me off the edge, and get to show a good part of my game and get after him, knowing that we'll end up hopefully one-on-one with the back, and me as a player, I'm very confident if you want to slide the protection away from me or to Dex, I'm a win off that back. So was able to get after him twice.
Now, watching the Commanders, though, their offense looks like is expanded a lot in the passing game, especially since that first week. That first week, it was still a lot of passing behind the line of scrimmage, get the ball out, bubble screens, all that Cliff Kingsbury, outside perimeter stuff. He's thrown over the middle now. Yep. He's doing a lot more from a passing perspective. So where have you seen the most growth and change in their offense from what they showed you guys in week 2 to what they've done since then?
The confidence building throughout the year for Jaden Daniels is want to give him the easy throws, hand the ball off, stretch the edge, get to the perimeter to slow the game down for him. Now week 9 week 9 I believe. So
it's crazy. It's week 9.
Yeah, I know, man. That's why it caught me. I'm like, dang, nah. But so we far enough along where he's seen a lot of different defenses and how like they play cover 2 or cover 3 or fire zone, you know what I'm saying? So game slowing down for him, so he's able to kind of stretch the ball a little bit. So we're expecting a little bit more explosive plays, attempts.
Of course.
So.
Now, they want to run the ball, though, right? They want to stretch it out and run it. They got a power run game. You have the Daniels aspect in that, too.
Yeah.
So what makes it particularly challenging with the way they spread and then have the quarterback as a run threat, too, in the traditional run game?
Always an issue, man. And, we're in the division of the RPO college offense world, so we're used to it. But, you hit it right there. That's the biggest it's the biggest plus to RPO offenses. You have a running quarterback, so you really got 2 running backs and a quarterback back there with 2 bodies, and then just the stretch in the field, the flashes of the tight ends and the 2, they can manipulate the 2-player with certain blocks and jets. So, it comes with a lot, but once you understand the philosophy, you can really slow it down.
Terry McLaurin, now that he is a top talented quarterback, we're seeing that, all right, maybe he's right with these other top wide receivers. His production's been great. Yeah. What makes him a challenge as a wide receiver to someone like you when you watch him on tape?
Competitor. Since I've been here in my 3 years, and we cut that tape on and we go over our personnel for the week, he's a competitor. He's a dog. That's just his mentality. He's not the biggest. He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. That's no disrespect to him, but that's clear. But he is a competitor. He's a dog, and he feels like he's going to win. So that's probably the biggest thing for him.
Some guys are wide receivers. That dude's a football player that happens to be playing wide receiver,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. That's a good way to explain it, describe it, yeah.
Yeah, I love watching him play. Just really fun. And then Brian Robinson, big physical back. Similar to Najee Harris, I think, right, in terms of kind of their styles and how they run. So how do you have to slow him down? Just Harris did have some kind of chunk plays against you guys last week. Yeah,
just good feet, good in the open space, good pad level, staying low, not coming in the box too high because they big backs and they keep their feet moving. So
final question. One guy you're going to have to deal with is Zach Ertz. He's been a pain in the butt in this division for a long time. First with the Eagles, now with the Commanders. Yeah. The guy gets older. He tears up his knee, comes back, still gets open. How does he do it?
He's very crafty. Even the last time we played him this year, he stole that one from me. And it's just crafty vetness, like knowing 50-50 balls go to the offense. So, and then within how he runs his route, like he knows, again, he's not going to run past you or do things like that, but he's a good finesse player, very smart.
All right, how important is it for you guys to finally put a good showing in front of your home fans in the building? I'm sure it's killing you guys that you haven't put a good product on the field at home so far this year.
Exactly, man. And to that, bro, it's like we're just as prideful, And I got friends who don't play, obviously, in the NFL, and I talk to them, and they have certain similar comments and, kind of like, yo, what we doing or what? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, trust me, I get both sides, but it's like, I promise we're not coming to work 12 hours a day just, doing nothing and hoping we lose. And you know what I'm saying? So it's just, it will make us probably more happy than them to put on a good show at home. And that's the goal. It's always the goal.
Is it just coincidence that you guys have happened to play your best on the road this year? Is there something in mindset? Because it's really night and day. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's the us. It's the us. And that, again, with early on in our interview with the Daves and just the mentality of the team, it's us. It's us. And when we travel, for some reason, we feel like we're on our own. So it's like it's like we get into battle mode or something. I don't know what it is, but we want to put on a good show at home, man.
Well, get in battle mode on Sunday morning. Yeah. Make believe you're in D.C. or whatever you got to do.
Something.
We can't wait to see you play.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
No problem, man. Appreciate it.
You're ready for a change. Payday comes early with Citizens, so go to that retreat. New You moves to the country. Now you're raising goats and launching a lifestyle brand. Are you ready for all that life brings?
The best part of football season? Checking out the post-game stats. Which wideouts scored more than 2 touchdowns? Which QBs threw for less than 350 yards? Think you can pick who will do what before kickoff? Then play Pick 6 from DraftKings, an official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, select between 2 and 6 players, and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. It's that simple. And for all first-time Pick 6 players, check this out. New customers play $5 on your first pick set, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Download the new DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code DK1. That's code DK1 for new customers to play $5 on your first pick set, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Non-withdrawable. Pick 6 credits. Expire in 6 months. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
The Giants Huddle podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. From game day celebrations to your everyday financial needs, Big Blue fans can get the most out of every moment with Citizens. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. That was Jason Pinnock. Great stuff out of him talking about the Giants defense and some of the challenges the Commanders offense will give the Giants on Sunday afternoon. Now let's turn the attention to our scouting report of the Commanders. And for that preview of the Commanders, we are joined by Ryan Fowler. He works for Bleacher Report, the Draft Network, former employee of the Commanders, worked on the media side much like I do here, and he also hosts the Commanding the Huddle podcast covering everything Commanders. Ryan, you've had a heck of a season here, man. I know we spoke before the year. You were more optimistic than I probably was regarding the Commanders this year, but I imagine even they've gone past your expectations before the year.
Yeah, first things first, John. Always appreciate you having me on, man. It's been a heck of a year so far for the Commanders. We are 8 weeks through. I can't believe it's been that far already through the year, but long way to go with this thing. But definitely, Adam Peters and company are laying that foundation down there in Washington for people should be excited down there in DC for what's to come.
Yeah, and I think we thought you could lay the foundation this year. You'd see signs of why things would get better in the future, but to be getting this many victories this early, I got to imagine, they in some ways even believe they're a little bit ahead of schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think you look at Jaden Daniels, right, entering the year, and you really didn't know what you were going to get. Really, the only guys on the roster you knew what you were going to get were probably Bobby Wagner and Brian Robinson on either side of the football. There's so many new faces in so many new places, but obviously what Jaden has done to where you look at the young man right now, of course, he's battling that rib injury, and he's battling through it. Of course, we saw in that Chicago game, and through 8 weeks, he's already in the MVP conversation. So, of course, they have exceeded expectations. I did not expect them to be 6-2 through 8 weeks, and not just competitive right now for a playoff spot, potential winning this darn NFC East here in the next couple months or so.
So the last time we saw Jaden Daniels was week 2, and at that point, Ryan, it was still a lot of quick screens, stuff behind the line of scrimmage, not a lot of stuff in the middle of the field in the intermediate range. Yeah. When he scrambled, he would run. He wasn't really throwing on the move much. But the progress I've seen from him, I think, has been pretty astounding, even from, when he was at his best at LSU. Go through for the fans a little bit what areas you think Daniels has progressed in the most over the past few weeks and where he is right now in terms of being an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, and as much as it is with Cliff Kingsbury, his pillars of his offense to where everything is going to stem for the Commanders through the run game. Really, their four-headed run game with Daniels, Eckler, Robinson, and Jeremy McNichols also gets involved a little bit as he did earlier in the year. But what Jaden's done so well is get himself in position with his body. It's his lower half before he ever rips it with his upper half, whether it's through the middle of the field. And that was something, John, I'm sure you heard in the pre-draft process. There was a narrative surrounding Jaden where he didn't want to throw over to the middle of the field. Well, it's not that he didn't want to, but when you have guys like Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas on the outside, why would you ever want to throw to the middle of the field when you have those guys running vertical on the outside? But that's where he's been best, I think, in the last month of the season, is putting that back foot in the ground, trusting what he's seeing. Zach Ertz over the middle of the field, guys like Alameda Zacchaeus, even Luke McCaffrey getting involved a little bit. Those guys behind Terry McLaurin aren't going to scare anybody. And that's the biggest thing with this offense right now. Again, another part of that, laying the foundation for what they're trying to be on offense with Jaden Daniels leading this thing. And that's where he's been best. Again, over the middle of the field, trusting his eyes, making it easier for guys up front where he doesn't have to hold the ball for 5-6 seconds and you're taking sacks like we've seen from quarterbacks across the league. That's where he's been best in trusting his eyes. And really, John, is as much attention as he gets from being that electric type of athlete with his lower half and ability to make plays, he's beating teams from the shoulders up with his head and looking and scanning defenses left to right, right to left, wherever the progression may take him, and just getting the ball out of his hands, letting his playmakers do the job in space.
Yeah, when I was preparing for the draft last year, I had Kurt Warner on, and he told me something that I probably didn't take to heart as much as I should have. And now that I look back, I've learned my lesson now when it comes to scouting. Just because you don't see a player do something in college doesn't mean he can't do it, because you don't know if he was being asked to do it. And that's, I think, referencing to Daniels throwing over the middle of the field and stuff like that, where, you know what? To your point, maybe they just didn't need him to do that at LSU because everything was working outside. So I think as we move forward now, looking at players, that's something to keep in mind, that you don't know what these guys are being asked to do. Just because you don't see them do it doesn't mean they're unable to do it. Kingsbury, you mentioned him. I had some questions about him and how his tenure in Arizona ended in terms of how he put that offense together. But look, he wants to spread you out to run it. That was a point you made earlier, but I really think he's done a good job of, finding easy open opportunities for Daniels. So there's not necessarily so much on his plate on every play where he has to be a superhero every down. I think he's really done a good job putting Daniels in a position to succeed this year.
Yeah, again, and it does really start with the run game. If Washington's ground game is not churning, really the big thing look at this week against the Giants and that defensive front where they got talent up and down that group, where the first down run game, if they're not getting into themselves with 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6s, they're forcing Jayden Daniels to sit back there 30, 35 plus times a game. Obviously, it's worked so far and worked against some of the better defenses that they played this year. Look at Baltimore, look at Cleveland, going out to Arizona and beating them. Some decent ball clubs, but the run game has been the biggest thing. And that's where Cliff Kingsbury has hung his hat. And I mentioned the 4 names earlier that really get going in this ground game. They also involve Terry McLaurin on sweeps. They involve him on motions. They involve him as a decoy over the middle of the field to open up screens of guys on the outside. They've involved Ben Sinnott a little bit more so in the passing game, even just running routes on the perimeter a little bit. Rookie tight end out of Kansas State. So Cliff Kingsbury is continuing to mix it up. And the biggest thing, too, is the ability to run different plays out of the same formation. And they also live in 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends. They'll have 2 running backs in the same field. That pony personnel that you see a lot with the Kansas City Chiefs over the years, with Jerick McKinnon or the Isaiah Pacheco's of the world in years past. So that's the type of stuff that Cliff Kingsbury is doing for this offense, to where, yes, Jayden is a special player, what we've seen so far. It is still early. He's still going to improve. But you look at the offense of what Kingsbury's asking everybody to do at a multitude of levels, different positions. It's just making it easier in the formations that they're running to just get into advantageous situations, to take those shot plays, which they like to do on those 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5s. And then if they have to also, John, stay on the field on 4th down because they trust in Jayden Daniels to make the right decision.
Where are Robinson and Daniels in terms of their injuries? I know Daniels is going to play. How compromised was he last week? Is he compromised at all? And then where's Robinson in terms of the hamstring?
Yeah, I expect Jayden Daniels to be a full 100% go this week. Now, he is someone that, the ribs are not 100%. And I think we can say that about everybody in football. Everybody's got something now moving into week 9. Whether it's a bruise, something is going on with everybody. It's a battle, the ability to fight through it. Brian Robinson, I expect to be 100% out there as well. He was banged up earlier in the year. So both those guys, I fully expect to be out there on Sunday afternoon. But with Jayden's rib injury, it may just take one hit. I'm sure, John, you remember that Andrew Phillips hit in week 2 that Jayden Daniels hit. That was basically the biggest hit that he's taken so far this year, and didn't get hurt on really a hard contact injury against Carolina. He just kind of got rolled up on that first offensive series a couple weeks ago for the Commanders. So he's going to have to take care of his body. He's going to take those shots as he did at LSU. But I do right now expect Jayden Daniels to be 100% go, but those ribs are definitely feeling it a little bit. And we saw that at the back end of that Chicago game last week.
When we did our season preview roundtable, I asked you specifically about the Commanders' offensive line, and I thought that was going to be a real Achilles heel for them this year. Jayden Daniels didn't deal with a lot of pressure at LSU. They had a really good line. And you expressed a lot of confidence in the line. I got to be honest with you. I got off the call and I'm like, I just don't see it. But man, Ron, I got to tip my cap. You were right. This offensive line has done a really, really nice job. Talk about the unit a little bit. I know there's some injuries issues. You can touch on those as well over at left tackle. But from my perspective, this offensive line unit for the Commanders has really overperformed expectations.
Yeah, and it's a big credit as well to Adam Peters and Cliff Kingsbury sitting down and getting the types of bodies that he wants in the interior. And what I mean by that is he wants guys to have those wider body types in their upper half to live in that vertical plane. They got a little bit of nasty to them in the middle. You look at Nick Allegretti, Tyler Biotish coming over from Dallas at the pivot spot, and then you got Sam Cosmi, who they re-upped this year. He's going to be a long-term piece for them up front. Formerly drafted out of Texas to be right tackle, now playing right guard, who's been really, really good for them so far. That's the interior, and that's the really the guts, the lungs of your offensive line that's been really, really good so far for them this year, leading that ground game. But out front, at left tackle, you mentioned the injuries. We expect to see Brandon Coleman, this week, 100% of the snaps potentially. And he's been rotating with Cornelius Lucas, a veteran in this league, to where they've been splitting every series. I'm bouncing in, I'm bouncing out. So it's going to be a big test for him this week of going up against a guy like Brian Burns. That's going to be huge for him. And you look at Jaden Daniels, to where he's got his blind side on the left side. And I can't sit here right now with confidence, John, and say that Brandon Coleman's going to completely stymie a guy like Brian Burns, who has been excellent so far in 2024. That's going to be a question for me this week. But yes, the group as a whole has been really good. Andrew Wiley entering the year, I had a ton of questions about, but coming over last year with Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City, he's played well. So this group has been really good up front, specifically with that interior three leading that ground game and making things easier for guys like Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler in the ground game.
Yeah, and I'll tip my cap to your offensive line coach, Bobby Johnson, who was here. Good dude. Didn't work out up here, but he's done a really nice job down there with the Commanders. All right, real quick, Ryan, let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball. I think they played much better the last couple of weeks. Where have you seen the biggest improvement from this defense from where they played the Giants earlier in the year? And the Giants only kicked field goals, but they did drive the ball up and down the field pretty consistently. Where has this group shown the most improvement in recent weeks where they've played a lot better?
Yeah, defensive coordinator Joe Witt, follows Dan Quinn over from Dallas this year, and he always talked about the offseason, play with your hair on fire. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to get after people. Well, entering the week last week against the Bears, it was only the Commanders and the Panthers in football that had less pressure rate when blitzing when they didn't. So they weren't getting after people a ton when they were sending extra bodies. So in trusting in that front four, that front five, they've lost John Allen. They've lost Cleveland Farrell at times. Dorrance Armstrong's missed time. So the edge group has gotten better this year so far in the last 2 weeks. But I think the biggest thing, John, it's not individual performances. I think it's just the guys up front all the way to the back that are buying in to what Joe Witt wants to do on defense. And it's not extremely complicated. It's a lot of cover three, and it's a lot of trusting and getting guys at home from your front four and trusting in Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, who they will probably miss this week, in the middle of that defense. So I think it's just being able to buy in what Joe Witt wants to do defensively, get after people. It's also been nice the last month of the season to where you're up 20 and you look at the scoreboard and you can flat out pin your ears back and get after people and play physical. But how does it happen when the games are close, right? You saw it with the Ravens game. You saw it last week against the Bears. Can the defense get a stop when it matters? And I think in those certain moments, John, you see the lack of talent that this team does have on defense, specifically at the edge spot and that perimeter corner where they really are in that lower tier in the NFL as far as from a talent perspective.
Yeah, and Louvu, really good blitzer. Him and Bobby Wagner, those are two guys that'll hurt it. If Louvu can't go, I think that's a real hit. Yeah. And I want to tip my cap to Joe Witt and Dan Quinn too. And look, we've seen Dan Quinn kind of shift a little bit in Dallas. He played a lot more man there. But you mentioned the cover three stuff. He's always going to run a lot of that. All teams do. But I really do think he's leaned into a lot more cover two stuff this year, Ryan. He did a little bit with Dallas last year. I think you look at some of I think their second highest cover two rate in the league when I was looking earlier this week. And I think with the defensive backs you guys have at corner, I think he's done a good job taking some pressure off of those guys and keeping them out of some of those one-on-one opportunities where they can get exploited by using some of that cover two.
Yeah, and they're really entrusting in Mike Sanders still. Rookie out of Michigan, they drafted to be their nickel corner, and he's taken over a role on the outside. He's played both spots. He's played outside. He's played inside. He's competing in the run game, making tackles in the fringe areas. He had his first pick, the first pick the Commanders had all year just a few weeks ago against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. So he's starting to make plays in the football as a wide receiver convert. So you look on the outside, and also you look at the safety rotation this team has. It's a long list of safeties, from Percy Butler to guys like Jeremy Chin playing in the box. Jeremy Reeves is a former All-Pro special teamer that may get some rotational reps as well. They got a lot of guys back there, including Derek Forrest, who's been in and out of the lineup. So Cover two, you get your two high safeties living deep, and you got your guys on the outside playing man. It's really been Sandra Still and Noah Igbenogany that came over this year, and really a prove it type of season to where they played much better than what we've seen from Benjamin St. Juste, that long 6'3" corner with the 33s on the arms. You always talk about those atypical cover three corners that Dan Quinn loved, even back to his days out there in Seattle. But they got some players, and they're making some plays on the outside, as you mentioned. But now it's just continuing to weeks like this where you got Malik Neighbors and got guys working over the shallow areas to try to be as consistent as you can if you are in those man situations for this defense to get home, because you don't want these guys covering, of course, for 4 or 5 seconds.
All right, final question. Anything about this team that we didn't talk about that you think is not talked about enough or is overrated maybe? Anything that you think Giant fans should know about this Commanders team heading into the game on Sunday afternoon?
I think it's probably the interior rotation along this defensive line. John, the last long time since really 2017, 2018, when this team added Deron Payne, John Allen, back-to-back drafts out of Alabama. There is no more John Allen right now in 2024, and I'm not sure he's going to be really a piece there for the future, considering the capital with Johnny Newton and considering how that young man has played so far as a rookie out of Illinois. And I think it's beyond Deron, Johnny Newton. Phil Mathis has also played well as a former second-rounder out of Alabama. You can catch a trend there. And some guys rotation like Sheldon Day have come in and stepped up. I mean, there's guys on the other side of the ball, John, that really is a big thing, that the guys are stepping up. And I think that's the biggest thing when guys are going down, making plays, but really this interior defensive line that traded John Ridgeway before the year to New Orleans, who was expected to be a key rotational piece. And also, from Adam Peters' perspective, I had to mention this, John. We talked about it earlier. This is a team that's laying the foundation, but the ability for Adam Peters to also trim the fat of this roster. They brought over Michael Davis to play perimeter corner from the Chargers. He's a special teams contributor now. Jamin Davis was expected to make the attrition down to 5-tech edge this year. That didn't work. He's now cut as a former first rounder. So a lot of things going on in Washington, but again, interior defensive line is definitely a positional group I look at. Say a little bit more attention for this group right now.
Yeah, and I think the Commanders right now are set to have the most cap space in the league next year. So a lot of room to still improve for sure. Ryan, good stuff, my friend. Enjoy the game this weekend, and we appreciate your insight and knowledge.
Absolutely. Thanks as always, John.
You love turf. You're good at it. So you start a turf biz. Business grows, your savings grow. Become the most celebrated name in turf. Are you ready for all that life brings?
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video.
Right on the money.
This week, it's one of the NFL's fiercest rivalries as the Cincinnati Bengals face the Baltimore Ravens.
Touchdown.
Coverage begins with TNF tonight. Not a Prime member? Sign up for a 30-day free trial to stream the game. It's the Bengals and the Ravens Thursday, only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Giants Huddle Podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Giants. Citizens will donate $750 to the Giants Foundation for each scoring drive during the 2024 season. Learn more at citizensbank.com/Giants. Excellent job there from Ryan. Really good information on the Commanders. Bob Papa had a chance to catch up with the head coach of the Giants, Brian Daboll.
As always, we're joined by the head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll. And this afternoon, the Giants take on the Washington Commanders. Coach, this is a team that you played earlier in the season. As you look back at them as you get ready to play this game, have there been many great changes from them, or are they just continuing to get better as we move along here?
Yeah, I think they've played good football, put themselves in positions to win. I think they're playing good complementary football, taking the ball away, taking care of it. A lot of their players are improving as the season goes on. And, Jaden Daniels is a special player that, I think on offense has a lot of people believing. They run the ball well, and they're playing, aggressive defense. They played really good defense last week against Chicago. They got good players and good scheme.
Coach, when you talk about one of the things that they're able to do, they're a team that moves the football. Obviously, they are very good running the football, and the quarterback is part of that. Does this game come down to a little bit what it did last time as far as red zone is concerned? They get to the red zone a lot, but they haven't been as effective getting the ball in the end zone. Is it kind of that whoever can get touchdowns in there as opposed to field goals has the best chance to win the game?
Yeah, that'll be an important element to it. And, the other thing will be to be better on third down, to prevent them from getting into some of those red zone opportunities. Again, they have a good explosive players. McLaurin has done it for a long time, and He's made a lot of plays down the field. I think Jane's done a great job of giving him opportunities to score the football or make explosive plays, which, in turn get you down in the red zone to get you a minimum of 3 points. So, third down will be important. Capitalizing in the red zone. When we get into the red zone will be important. And then doing a good job of taking care of the ball and getting the ball and creating some short fields. So, it'll be a complementary game. All three phases are going to, really have to do a good job of working off each other. And we're going to have to do a good job of making sure we take care of the details.
Coach, obviously the game on Monday night was a frustrating game, but there's a lot of things when you look at the game that have to have you and your players excited about things that you were able to get done in that football game. Is there any kind of carryover from a Monday night game to Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's, every week's a new week. So you have a new opponent, new schemes, and the most important thing is playing well, and playing well in critical situations. Playing well on third down in the red zone, playing well and making good decisions, in 2-minute drives. Those are important things. Tackling well in the open field. I thought the line of scrimmage, it was good to see to be able to move the ball, handing the ball to Tracy and getting positive yards. I think that helps everything else. It allows you to complement things and staying on track. But those critical situations, it usually comes down to those in those games. And the turnover battle, we lost that. That's a huge thing in terms of determining outcomes of games, and we're going to have to do a better job of that.
Coach, I want to ask you about Tyrone Tracy because he had his second 100-yard rushing game this past Monday night, and it wasn't always, peaches and cream. I mean, there was a bunch of times where, he fought through some contact. There was one play where I think he carried a whole bunch of Pittsburgh Steelers for about 7 or 8 yards. Can you just talk a little bit about his maturation as he's kind of getting more into the NFL in his rookie season and what the growth is that you've seen in his game?
Yeah, again, was a receiver, played running back. Really, Joel Thomas, our running back coach, has done a fantastic job with him, developing him, not just his skill set and some of the techniques that he uses, but his mental. He's a pro off the field. He does the right things. He's a good young player to work with, and that's what you want out of all your players, but particularly your young players, is when they have opportunities that they're ready to go when their number is called, and you never know when that's going to be. And when their number is called and they execute and they perform, then they're going to get more opportunities. And he's earned them. He's a good young player to work with, and we're going to continue to, to grow his skill set.
Coach, one of the other things I noticed about his game is the fact that you have him in there on third downs a bunch. And there's a lot more to just being there in on third downs and being able to catch a ball or something, the protections. He seems to have picked that stuff up pretty good.
Yeah, another testament to Joel and to Trace there. They've done a good job of each week growing and learning the things that he needs to do in the mental part of it. It's a tough game there on third down, I'd say mentally as much as it is physically. And for him to be able to, understand what his responsibilities are, you get a variety of looks. His communication has been good. And, again, that's what you want out of your young players, guys that maybe don't play right away, to make sure that they're ready to go. And when they are ready to go and they perform, then they play more.
Coach, going to the other side of the ball, what is the key to what they do defensively? Because when you look at the Commanders as you try to attack them, there's not a ton of household names for the average NFL fan out there. Bobby Wagner obviously is going to be in the Hall of Fame someday, but they haven't given up a touchdown the last 2 games. What is making their defense so effective?
Yeah, they play good team defense, but again, they play good team football, and I think each unit feeds off of one another. So when you score points, that gives defense energy. That gives defense an opportunity to do some more things when they're, when the other team is behind in the game. They tackle well. They give you a variety of looks. They play good team football, good sound football. They play hard. They take the ball away, and it's a good football team. That's why their record is what they are. It's a good complementary team.
Final question, Coach, and we're with Coach Brian Daboll as we get set for this afternoon's game between the Washington Commanders and the Giants. trying to get that box check, get that win in front of the home fans. I know you're frustrated. I know everybody's been frustrated about it. But, it's funny. When you walk on the field before every game, you have so much energy and you got that hop in your step, and your players tend to feed off that. Is getting off to this quick start, which I know sounds cliche-ish, but really important against a division rival like this?
Yeah, no question about it. Fast starts are big determining factors as well in outcomes of games. How you play in the first half, can you get up? Now, look, we need to do a better job of that, but we're going to have to play a 60-minute game against a team that's got a 6-2 record. That's won a lot of football games. That's very confident, and they're confident in one another of how they play, complementary. So it'll be important to go ahead and to get off to a fast start, to play the right way, to be detailed in the things we need to be detailed, and to execute at a high level. And that's what it's going to take.
Coach, we appreciate a couple minutes, as always.
Thanks, Bob.
And now we're joined by Garry Clark, Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing and Communications Officer for Quest. Garry, let's start with this. Earlier this year, Quest was this presenting sponsor for the Giants Foundation 5K, very popular event. A lot of people showed up, had a great time the weekend the Giants were celebrating their 100th season. Tell us a little about that event and why it's so important to Quest to sponsor for us.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me on, John. Just for those who aren't familiar with Quest, we're a clinical lab company. We're headquartered here in Secaucus, New Jersey, and we have a big flagship facility in Clifton, New Jersey, right up Route 3 from the Giants Quest Diagnostics Training Center. We do about 130,000 specimens through that facility each year. At Quest, our purpose is working together to create a healthier world, one life at a time. So physical and mental well-being is a really big deal for us, both around our employees, but also the communities in which we operate. So events like the Giants Foundation 5K are a really perfect fit with what we're trying to achieve as a company. It was a great event. As you said, we had about 3,000 people come through, soggy weather, but people made the most of it. We had about 300 Quest employees participate. Actually, one of our employees came second in the women's category, so she was doing really well there. But it's both a great event for our employees, but also for supporting the goal that we have of working in communities to create a healthier world for patients. At the event, we had the opportunity to talk about a new campaign that we're running called For All Your Reasons. That really centers around trying to get people to start new habits or make healthy choices for themselves, for their families, for their friends. And we want people to know that Quest's here to help with every step of those health journeys. And then outside of the 5K, we've done some really great work with the Giants recently on some other fan engagements. One to look out for would be Train Like a Giant, which is a social content series which gives fans a chance to learn more about the routines that their favorite players go through to prepare for game days.
Yeah, I can speak from the production department. We love getting those ready. They're a lot of fun to do with the players to kind of learn about how they train up. And also 3 years ago, the Giants kicked off their journey to their 100th season. They introduced the legacy thematic, honoring our teams from the 80s and 90s. What has it meant to Quest to have been a part of that program from the beginning, obviously as it's culminated this year in the 100th season?
Yeah, look, we love the Legacy series. We're big on history and results at Quest. We've been around since the late 60s. We understand the importance of looking back, seeing how far you've come, celebrating success, and honoring those who've been part of that success along the way. We've been excited to be part of that Legacy program from the beginning. And that idea of legacy and tracking your historic results and records is right in line with how we think about trying to help people with their personal health histories. We've worked with the Giants also on testing the players, looking at giving insight through lab testing to the players, everything from their diets to performance and even grass allergies. So we take a lot of pride in the value of the testing that Quest does for those athletes, and we want fans to know you can get the same insights when you test with Quest as well.
I know full allergies are kicking in now, so
yes.
it's certainly something good to do, no question. And obviously, a lot of fans are listening to this in the parking lot. They're tailgating, they're waiting to go into the game, and they're really excited for your giveaway today on game day. Tell the fans what they're going to get and what you and the Giants are handing out.
Yeah, so look, we've been excited to be part of the Legacy series, as you said. Today is a Legacy game with a presenting sponsor. We're giving out an awesome giveaway for the first 25,000 fans entering the stadium. That's a Lawrence Taylor bobblehead. This bobblehead series, I know they've always been really popular. This one's going to include the 100th season logo. So we're super excited to be part of that giveaway.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. And those bobbleheads can be collectibles. We've had a few of those over the years. They're all fantastic. And LT, he was voted the best Giant and greatest Giant in Giants history. So a must-have today. Finally, and Gary, you've been talking about this, people today really focused on their health more than ever. Just tell everyone a little bit more about the services that Quest offers to help fans build their health history and what else they can learn at testwithquest.com.
Yeah, look, I think people are starting to be a lot more proactive in managing their health, which we think is really exciting. Coming out of the pandemic, I think people have also been recognizing the role that lab testing can play in helping manage their health. So when you have your lab test done at Quest, we really encourage everyone to make a MyQuest account. MyQuest is an easy-to-use app that's got a ton of different tools in it to help you manage, schedule your appointments, view your test results, and securely pay your bills. But by choosing Quest over time, fans have the ability to see their lab results historically and build that personal health history. So no matter what happens, if you move, you change your job, your insurance changes, you can always have those lab results at your fingertips. We've also started offering some other convenience services for lab testing. We have a service called Quest Mobile. So if it's offered in your area, we can have a lab tech or a phlebotomist come to your home or your office and take your lab sample there instead of you coming to a service center. That's a great offering for people who've got limited mobility or a really busy schedule. And we also now have a Quest online store where people can buy their own lab tests, the same tests available to doctors anytime at questhealth.com. So learn more about how to get started. Come along to testwithquest.com. There's a link there to set up a MyQuest account, request your historical results from Quest, and please also follow us on the socials at testwithquest. We're really excited, the partnership with the Giants, really excited for the legacy game today, and look forward to seeing everyone inside.
Yeah, Gary, I can't wait to go slide out of the booth during one of our longer recorded interviews to get my hands on one of those LT bobbleheads. I'm very excited. It should be a great addition to the series. Thanks so much for joining us, and enjoy the legacy game.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Always fun to talk to one of our sponsors. Garry Clark from Quest did a fantastic job. An excellent job by all of our guests today. Bob Papa with Brian Daboll, of course, Ryan Fowler giving us invaluable information on the Commanders, and then, of course, Jason Pinnock giving us some insight into the Giants' defense and how they might stop Jaden Daniels and that Commanders' offensive attack. Thank you for joining us on the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk. Enjoy the game this weekend. We'll talk to you next time, everybody.